inaccessible by pirogue, treacherous paths revealed only to those who knew the swampy lands. She was not one of those people. Her forte was the streets, not here. She had to wait for Benny. To be honest, she wasn't even sure she could find her way back to the parking lot. Anxiety crawled up her spine. Too quiet. Not even the normal sounds of night insects and nocturnal predators, more at home than man in this undomesticated wild. Beyond the faint drip of fog condensing on leaves and the pulse of blood in her ears, only silence existed, as confining as a casket. White tendrils of mist wrapped her like frayed tendons. She shifted her feet, trying to break up the hated fog, alternately concealing, then revealing as it curled along the bayou. It was a lie, a promise of beauty that hid evil. She thought of the foggy night she'd found her estranged husband's incinerated remains. Something cold brushed her arm. She spun, heart knocking against her ribs, and a bone-white hand slid out from the fog. Out of her nightmares, it reached for her. A yelp escaped her control. She flinched and then shook her head to ease her momentary weakness. The hand was not a disembodied demon. It was attached to a moving shadow, physical enough to stir eddies of fog. She braced her hand on the cypress, settling back into sweaty-palmed edginess, while the shadow solidified into a skinny body. A man. When cavernous cheeks and greedy eyes formed on the ashy face, she let out a breath. "Benny, I was beginning to think you stood me up."
"Keep your voice down. I saw something."
His nasal tones grated on her. "The source of the lights?"
"Nope. A man, perhaps. But he weren't sticking around long enough for me to be sure."
Her terror of the fog was buried beneath the scent of a story. "You gonna take me to see those lights?" He glanced around, his hands in his pockets jingling coins. "Backing out?" she challenged.
"You got the money?"
She pulled an envelope from her hobo bag and handed it to him. He took a quick look inside before shoving it in his back pocket. After another furtive glance around, he motioned for her to follow.
"No talking."
Natalie followed. As they picked their way across the sodden ground, she was glad she'd worn boots and jeans despite the heat. Wet branches scraped against her denim-clad legs, and she gave a few more useless swats against the mosquito horde. Just about the time she was beginning to think Benny was as lost as she was, he drew up and motioned her to stop. He turned and laid a finger to his lips, an emphatic gesture for her to be quiet. She slid closer, her nose wrinkling as Benny's rancid odor reached her nostrils. Rotting vegetation was a perfume compared to him. She peered forward, and then bit back a muffled curse. Dratted fog covered too much. She edged closer to the tiny clearing formed where a couple of trees had fallen. From the clearing, a beam of white light, strong enough to pierce the fog, blinked twice. Her heart battered against her ribs. Not E.T.'s ship. This was a flashlight. If there were monsters out tonight, they were the human kind. As if waiting for that signal, the fog parted, at last giving her a clear view. Two skinheads waited, giggling and sneering at something by their feet, and paying no attention to their surroundings, thank you, Jesus. Doglip and Cracker were their street names. If those two sorry pieces of humanity were here, their headman, Axe, couldn't be far away. And Axe was the worst of a real bad bunch. No fear of the unknown here. The sour taste on her tongue was the fear of the known, the fear of soulless cruelty. Her fingers tightened around her bag strap, and before the punk saw her, she shifted further behind a tree. Not aliens, not ghosts, not demons. This crew was vicious, crude, and undisciplined, and they didn't give a donkey's ass about the supernatural. If Axe was involved, then she was looking at something frickin' illegal. Hooah, but she had a story here. Excitement bubbled like seltzer.